Hello, welcome once again to Urban X Files. My name is Keith, and today's story is the ghosts on board the Queen Mary. Now, I think the Queen Mary is probably one of the most haunted ships that you can go on board these days. It doesn't voyage anymore. It is a fixed hotel in America. She had her maiden voyage in England in 1936, and she completed her last journey in 1967. Now, in her days as an ocean liner, she symbolized the height of luxury. She was temporarily converted into a troop ship during World War II from 1940 to 1946, so she's a veteran of the seas. Now, during her stint in the military service, she was painted grey and her name changed to the Grey Ghost, and she transported nearly 1 million troops and over 12,000 children and GI brides, serving both as the largest and the fastest troop ship of the time. Now, she resumed her previous task as an ocean liner after the war, but cruise ships like her weren't as popular as air travel became more common and faster. Now, the Queen Mary met retirement in 1967, which was 31 years of service, and she remained moored in Long Beach, California, and where she still is docked to this very day. Now, some say there isn't a single floor on this ship that doesn't have its own ghost. Given the fact that the ship is pretty old, it's nearly 100 years old, and it was used during the war, where it would have had many deaths and souls lost on board this ship. Now, first ghost of the day we are to talk about is Half Hatch Harry, and one of the most paranormally active areas on the Queen Mary is the Shaft Alley, which refers to an engine room and is haunted by a ghost affectionately nicknamed Half Hatch Harry. John was an 18-year-old engine room firefighter in training who perished in a freak accident involving one of the massive sealed doors on the ship in 1966. The purpose of the huge watertight doors was to seal off sections of the ship to prevent it sinking. Now, during a routine fire drill, John was crushed in door number 13, unlucky for some, and reportedly severed the poor guy in two. Hence the name Half Hatch Harry. To this day, experts remain puzzled as to how he was crushed, since the doors take 60 seconds to completely close. Now, he remains the Queen Mary's most famous and active ghost, and is often spotted wearing his blue overalls covered in grease with just a hint of a beard, as his young and ageless face is in appearance. He has been seen numerous times walking along the shaft, only to disappear suddenly right beside door 13. Now, one man who is aware of this story teasingly challenged the ghost to join him and his wife as they walked along the Shaft Alley. As the middle-aged couple passed through the seal of door number 13, they experienced a strong sense of being watched. The man repeatedly turned and looked behind them, convinced he would see someone who had joined them. Suddenly, he felt something brush across his face, but as he turned to tell his wife, she spotted a smear of grease exactly where he'd been touched. The next ghost, it seems to enjoy the swimming pools, so popular in the heyday of the Queen Mary, have been hard for her former passengers to give up. Many people have heard the sounds of splashing water without anyone in or near the pool. Other times, people wearing swimsuits from the 1930s through to the 1960s have been seen and heard enjoying themselves. When the pool was still in use, one night, the night watchman found himself shoved into the water by an unseen hand. These activities occurred primarily around the first-class swimming pool. So you can imagine this guy stood there watching the ship, keeping everything safe, was get shoved into the pool, was about to turn around to give him a piece of his mind, to be met with nothing at all. A young girl named Jackie reportedly drowned either in first or second class pool, but her spirit seems to have remained on the Queen Mary after all these years. Singing and laughter have been captured during EVP sessions by its many ghost hunters. Jackie seems to enjoy leaving wet, tiny footprints behind as well, and she doesn't limit herself to the pool area. She's been seen in many locations throughout the ship. However, the first class pool still remains her favourite, despite water being the cause of her untimely death. Fresh, wet footprints have been sighted leading from the swimming pool decks to the changing rooms, and it is believed a young woman named Sarah, who was brutally raped and murdered while changing in one of the rooms. People have heard the sound of a woman sobbing, seen mysterious moving shadows, and even witnessed the ghostly shape of a young lady sitting in the changing room stall. The changing rooms are the source of so much strange activity that ghost webcams have been set up in the past to monitor the area, and some paranormal experts are convinced this area of the ship serves as some portal or a vortex. Now, there is one particular ghost on the Queen Mary has been affectionately nicknamed the Dude. Quite a few guests have shared drinks with him in Sir Winston's bar, talking and laughing with him. He is always impeccably dressed, and one of those who have interacted with him are shocked when they realised he wasn't a living person. He vanished during one of his many drinking sessions. Now, Dana was a young girl whose entire family was apparently murdered aboard the ship. People have spotted her spirit playing in the cargo areas, while others have spotted little Dana walking about the second class pool area, calling out most pitifully for her mum. Only when she mysteriously disappears from the site do visitors then realise she is not of the living, and that her mother was calling for her. She had been dead for many years. Now, room B340 is the smallest cabin aboard the ship and is no longer offered to guests after a staff member was murdered in the room. The hauntings associated with the particular room are so violent and unpredictable that the hotel staff felt it was in everyone's best interest to keep the room off limits, even removing the door number. The source of the haunting is believed to be either the ghost of a murdered person from many moons ago, or the ghost of a deranged man who killed his 5-year-old daughter while he was aboard the ship. Regardless of the cause, the nature of the hauntings has become more malevolent with time, and the initial hauntings were not as violent, although they were still very frightening for the visitors staying in room B340. Now, people who had stayed in this room repeatedly complained of facets turning themselves on and off with no physical explanation. And the lights too seem to operate on their own accord, switching on and off through all hours of the day and night. Hotel guests have also complained of sheets flying off the bed and landing across the room. Voices have cried out in the darkness, ordering the guests to get out. This no doubt occurred right before they requested another room. Now, there aren't just the select number of cabins that are haunted. Through the years, many different paranormal manifestations have been reported in different rooms and cabins. Envision lying in a bed one night, resting, when someone begins to slowly pull the covers away from you. That wouldn't be scary, of course, unless you were in the room alone. In a panic, you turn on the light, but cannot find an explanation for why these covers were removed from you. Perhaps you were reading a book before you retired for sleep that night, when the water in the sink and the bath just turn on simultaneously with no one in the bathroom. You could be one of the ladies finishing up her beautiful face before joining the others for an elegant meal with the captain. When you see a man's face reflected in the mirror and you scream, you turn around to face the intruder, only to discover there is nobody there. Several passengers or hotel guests awakened in the middle of the night with the distinct feeling of being watched. Opening their eyes, they saw a small boy beside the bed, staring intently at them. But in a matter of moments, this wide-eyed little boy vanished into the thin air. There is a waitress at the Chelsea restaurant on board the Queen Mary who was working as a hostess, and one evening when she saw 3 guests walking toward her along the hallway leading from the deck to the restaurant, she quickly glanced down at the reservation book to check for a reservation for a party of 3, and when she looked up, there were only 2 people. As they approached the podium, she politely asked if they would wait for the 3rd member of their party. But they informed her that there were only a party of 2. There was no way someone could have disappeared from that hall that quickly. Now, in October of 1942, the Queen Mary collided with her escort ship, the HMS Curacoa. Now, it only took 6 minutes for the smaller ship to sink and take with it the lives of almost 300 passengers and crew. Throughout the years, passengers located near the front of the Queen Mary have been awakened by suddenly with the horrific screams and rushing water. Upon investigation, no one can find the source of either sound. The Curacoa was possibly linked to this awful sound of what could only be described as a terrifying experience. Now, these haunted street shrieks are said to be filled with hopelessness and the sounds of metal being torn apart and rushing water with these awful noises that come with a sinking ship. And these have been recorded many times, part of EVP sessions. There are other haunted areas of this ship, and the main deck of the ship is said to be haunted by the 2nd officer, William E. Stark, who died when he drank cleaning fluid instead of gin. His poisoning was accidental, but his spirit seems to refuse to be at rest. An entire tour group once witnessed his ghost, dressed in navy white, near the pool area once again, another part of the ship that seems to be where the resident ghosts go to enjoy themselves. In the Queen's Salon, which is served as the 1st class lounge, people have spotted a woman dancing in a beautiful white evening gown from her era. Dubbed as the Lady in White, her partner has never been spotted, although she has been seen dancing in the shadows towards the corner of the room. The third-class children's playroom is another haunted area of this ship. However, it's not the laughter of children that visitors hear, but the pitiful cry of an infant boy who perished shortly after he was born on board the ship. There is little doubt that the Queen Mary is extremely haunted, and it seems from the deck to the hatches, ghosts remain close to the ship. So, if you should ever be fortunate enough to visit the ship, don't be surprised if you encounter a resident who's no longer in the living. I would love one day, hopefully, to be able to go and investigate this ship, but there's no plans for the near future for that to happen unless I win the lottery, but you never know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story. As you know, ships are one of my favorite things to discuss, along with vampires and other ghosts. But this ship is a special ship, as it's still able for you to go and investigate or even stay as part of a luxury holiday. Anyway, take care, thanks for watching, and see you all in the next video. Peace.